answered your question, Karen. It's a big question. You're welcome to consult me for free later. You can put me in touch with Angela if you wish, and we can talk more in depth about your child's personal learning profile and what would suit their paths best. Okay. We have centers throughout the country which can also facilitate this process, that can also provide other occupational, technical training, vocational, that can equip them to actually be productive members of society and be fulfilled and be employable or be able to start their own businesses without necessarily going the traditional academic route. So just consider that also as an alternative. Okay. It doesn't always have to be an academic qualification that you have to aim for. So please think about consulting me afterwards if you want to consider that.
I see there's some questions. I just want to quickly jump in here before we get to those, just on the subject of assessment. So now, say you've come in and you've been homeschooling for a while, and you just want to know where's your child fitting in. Does CambriLearn have an assessment? Is it possible to know, like, where they are with different subjects? Or how does it work if someone is transitioning from, let's say, eclectically homeschooling into a more structured pathway?
So we do have placement testing. It's voluntary. I want to stress we have an open admissions policy, Angela. So we don't put any barriers to entry. We don't have age requirements. We don't have evidence of learning requirements. We don't require report cards up to grade 9. Again, I have to always put that caveat. From grade 10, on the CAP system at least, you actually do need to have report cards. You can't just pick up a grade. You can't start Matric without having prior reports from grade 10, 11. Okay, but up to grade 9, absolutely, you don't need any paperwork to enter into CambriLearn. However, if you wish to have placement testing done of your own free will, it's not an imposed requirement, then we do offer it. It's a free optional extra. Costs you 345 Rand. It's not expensive per child. And we test both English and maths for that price. And we will give you a grade level placement test. So you can choose what grade level you think your child should be tested on, whether from grade 1 to grade 9. We test from grade 1 to grade 9 because those are the levels where normally you're not certain of placement. And we will administer it how? Well, we invoice you. Once you've made payment, we email you the tests. You invigilate it yourself at home. They have to handwrite the answers. They are allowed, by the way, if they've got scribed concessions or reader concessions or extra time, you will administer them under their usual assessment conditions. Okay, if they're entitled to accommodations, you're perfectly entitled to grant them. Okay, we don't prescribe how you administer it if there are legitimate circumstances under which you qualify for concessions. And then you return them to us by how? Well, scanning the answers and returning them to us and mailing them. And then we mark them for you. But what's interesting is we don't just give you the scores and the advice, we actually give you back the answer script marked with notes. So it actually guides you also as to what gaps you may have identified. So our rationale for suggesting or recommending a grade level comes with the detailed data, comes with the feedback, which means you can take that and then do it what you please. You don't have to go with us. It's not a requirement. It's obligation free. But if you choose to start with us, you can choose a level to start with or follow a recommendation. So even our recommendation is not mandatory, but it at least puts you into the knowledge of knowing where your gaps may be for your child on the traditional school system, if you wish to know.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
I think, can you see the questions there?
I'm answering some of the questions. Yeah. Michelle Leroux, I can answer your question. Does CambriLearn have Afrikaans as a subject? Yes, we do. We have Afrikaans as a second language, both for CAPS and for Cambridge. But for Cambridge, world languages, which Afrikaans falls under, believe it or not, it's considered a world language, as is Spanish, French, etc. We offer all those world languages, Afrikaans, French, Spanish, only from year 7, because high school begins year 7 in Cambridge, and Cambridge only offer world languages in high school. Interesting, huh? Because with a CAP system, you start your second languages right from grade 1, but not the British system. What that means, of course, is if you want to pick up Afrikaans, it's best not to leave it to high school, but to be exposed to it earlier, which is why we then encourage people who are doing our British system to still use our CAPS Afrikaans, if they so wish. Of course, you might choose to graduate school without ever having done Afrikaans, which you can on the British system, and then that's fine. Then you don't have to take Afrikaans ever. But if you wish to take Afrikaans because it's your mother tongue or you want that as your second language, please note CambriLearn does offer it, Michelle. Okay. How does a parent, this is an interesting one from Teacher Joe, how does a parent find out if an online school is registered with the Department of Education? Now, that's a good question. So in South Africa, there is no registration process for online schools. So that's where it's a bit of the Wild West, Teacher Joe. There are no requirements for being an online school. So you have to get externally internationally accredited, like CambriLearn is. We're accredited by Cogni, which is a teacher body. It's a non-profit organization, highly regarded, and they accredit both physical schools and virtual schools. But when you get to that FET phase, you have to be registered with an exam board, whether it's the the Independent Exam Board, IEB, or Sakai. You have to have an exam board that's going to provide you the Matric certificate that is approved by Umalusi. So we have accredited exam boards in this country who will register schools that are online, like us. So CambriLearn is registered with Sakai. Sakai is the exam board that is Umalusi accredited. Okay, so it's not so much that the school is registered as an online school, but that the curriculum certification, in this case, the Matric certificate, for instance, through Sakai, is registered by an exam board that is accredited by Umalusi. So you can't actually go and find any online school registered with the Department of Education in this country. There is no such legislation. They don't have a process by which they can grant online schools registration. Okay. It is a gray area. There is talk that they are looking at legislation that would then create a formal registration process for such schools. But Teacher Joe, you've hit on something. This is why it's a bit dangerous with homeschooling, because there's a lot of people out there that aren't truly accredited. They're running fly-by-night operations. They don't have accredited teachers. They're not really benchmarked. And so it is a bit dangerous to use a school that is not reputable. And sometimes there are people offering an incredible price for their education, and you must question whether this is genuine, because if it sounds too good to be true, sometimes it really is too good to be true. It's not accredited, it's not recognized, and so you are risking your child's future based on an unqualified teacher or unaccredited program. So yeah, difficult, Teacher Joe, very difficult. I wish there was more regulation around online schools. It may be coming, but it's not yet. Corin Daniels asked another question about footprints. Sorry, I don't know footprints, Corin. I do know Shirley Irvie, who I think was presenting it, and yeah, superb, very well regarded. But I don't know whether they offer a Matric certificate at the end if they register with any exam board. You'd have to ask her. I think I've answered all the questions so far that I can see on the Q&A. So
okay.
Yeah.
I want to just check on my side, because we had some questions on the forms as well.
Sure.
Okay, here someone asked, which subjects give the most options? If we're talking about your post-matric options.
Question.
It's quite it's quite wide, because it also depends, on your strengths and where your interests lie.
Yeah, but let's talk about subjects. So Maths Lit generally gives you very few options for tertiary in South Africa on the CAPS, for example. Very few. Pretty much just a Bachelor of Arts is the only degree program that does not require pure maths. So if you're doing BA Law, BA Journalism, LLB, generally, be careful though, confirm this with the varsity, because there's certain faculties of law that if they're done through other schools like the School of Commerce, like the BCom Law qualification at Tuckies, they require pure maths. You can't get in with Maths Lit, even though it's a law degree. But because you're doing it through the Commerce faculty, there's no way to get into the Commerce, Science, Health, Health Sciences and Medicine, Sports Science. There's no way to get into those faculties without maths. So Maths Lit rules you out of a lot of qualifications. Not all by any means, but be careful taking Maths Lit. Traditional schools don't tell scholars that. It's a problem because there's very few pathways open at tertiary level. But of course, if you never intend to go tertiary, it's not an issue. Or if you intend to go tertiary on a career path that does not require maths, you're fine. But just be certain of that. For example, psychology. Here's a common misconception. People think because psychology is sounding more like a liberal arts degree, something that's not scientific or mathematical. It does not require maths. You cannot do psychology in this country without having done maths to matric level. And I'm talking about pure maths, not maths lit. Why? Because there's psychometrics in maths, in stats, and in psychology for analyzing reports, and you need to have the maths. So there's an example of a degree that's often, misconceived as not requiring maths. Okay, so on the Cambridge system, you find because there's never a consumer maths version. So I would say be careful if you don't take maths. You don't have to on the British system, and you can take maths lit on the CAPS, but understand the implications of that choice. And then the sciences are not considered core in the CAPS. It's quite interesting, but they're considered a core skill in Cambridge. So the Cambridge core, English, maths, and science. Okay, so they consider literacy, numeracy, and scientific inquiry as an essential skill. The CAPS system doesn't. In other words, you don't have to take a science to finish school with. You don't have to take either physical science or biology. But Cambridge strongly encourages you to. You don't have to. You can take a maths in its place, but that's why the rule for the British system is that you have to take either maths or a science to finish school with. You can't leave out both. You can't finish school with neither maths nor science. You will then not have qualified with university entrance. You'll not have got a matric equivalence. Okay, so that's important to keep in mind. Beyond that, honestly, Angela, like you said, it's so broad, that question. What opens up the most careers? Well, I would say where the world is moving, AI and tech have some kind of technology subject there, but not every child's interested in that route. Not every child wants to go technical or, information technology or programming or code. But yeah, I would say that's becoming very much the flavor of the month in terms of career options. So I would say something technical, something in IT. So coding, robotics, computer programming, information communications technology, computer science, something like that would probably be quite beneficial because so many careers are going through computing these days. And then, some people would say that the humanities teach you argumentation and clear thinking and debating skills. So things like history or geography will help lawyers. It's so broad, that question. Yeah, I agree with you, Angela. It's so difficult. But here's one thing you can do. CambriLearn offers in-house educational psychology services. If you want to get your child assessed for career counseling purposes and get them advised, it is one of our services. Optional extra. You can go to your own service provider, obviously, for this. You don't have to use ours, but we do offer that. So if you want to get guided on subject choice or you want to get guided on career path options, please feel free to employ our own in-house educational psychologists. All done online, but they will do aptitude testing, they'll do personality testing, they'll do an intake interview, and then they'll counsel you. They'll do a feedback session where they present the results of the scientific testing and then advise you. And then they can even help you with selecting which varsities might meet your requirements if you want to go tertiary, or which careers you could be open to exploring. So it's quite a useful process, and that would narrow it down for your child. Because like you said, Angela, every child is unique. It's impossible to have one rule that fits all. In fact, the nature of homeschooling is, by its very essence, every child should be treated as an individual. So there should never be a rule that has to fit every child. So yeah, I don't think I can make a generic rule or advice easily. I would suggest get your child profiled. I hope I'm not escaping the question, Angela, but I just don't want to come up with an answer I don't have.
No, I understand. I think I can maybe just chip in here and just saying, with homeschooling, we have the privilege to be able to cater towards our children's. I believe everyone is a genius. Children they're like born with their strengths. They're born with interests, and it's important that you don't use school to dilute that and stifle it. With homeschooling, you can absolutely help a child develop their strengths and cater for the weaknesses, but you don't have to be an all-rounder. I think everyone has got special abilities and special gifts, and it's good. We don't have to try and fit into a smarty box and try and be everything. So I don't know if there's more questions that popped up there. Is anything new?
Corin Daniels is just asking, is Matric a must for a learning disabled child? Not at all. Not at all. Matric is not the be all and the end all. So I think we also need to think out the box a bit here. I know there's that expectation everybody must finish school with a matric. No, not at all.
Yes.
Nonsense. That again is a one size fits all mentality. It's what traditional schools are good at trading us on. We have to think out the box here. We're homeschooling. There are many alternatives. There are many routes to success later in life. So this idea that everybody has to go to university or everybody has to finish school with a matric certificate is just plain simply incorrect.
Yeah. Yeah.
No need to apologize. Tara and Shane, she's apologizing for all the questions. Not at all. Not at all.
No.
You're all, you ask on behalf of others, I promise you. You're not the only one. So no need to apologize.
Yeah, no, Karen, please, this is what it's about. It's a Q&A. Ask your questions.
Yeah.
You mentioned about the having the career guidance. Is there anything else that we have that CambriLearn offers for the extracurricular subjects?
Yes,
Maybe you
thank
can
you.
just touch
So
on that.
let me touch on that. Yeah, we haven't covered that much today, but yeah, there's also the possibility of you doing your own schooling. It's coming up with your own program and using a myriad of resources, like footprints, as we mentioned tonight. We're using, National Geographic and Singapore Maths and Easy Peasy, this and, phonics books, and just compiling your own program, and yet feeling like you want to do a certain skills development course with a curriculum provider like us. So we have curriculum agnostic courses, ones that don't fit into any particular prescribed curriculum, but they're just there for the joy of learning, for teaching skills to kids who are hungry for those skills. So we have robotics on offer. We have social emotional learning, a Finnish course. The Finns are regarded as world leaders in education. Their kids always come out tops in terms of scholastic skills. And so they've created this course. The company is in Finland called Mightifier. They've created this course to teach EQ to kids. Yes, I know it's a bit sad that kids have to be artificially taught how to relate to each other and how to manage themselves and to self-regulate. But believe it or not, sometimes those skills have to be externally taught and made very explicitly clear to them. And so we have a wonderful course that they created from age 6 up until age 12. So it's for primary schoolers, different age groups going to different classes, and we facilitate a collaborative learning experience of teaching kids EQ skills, I kid you not. Social emotional learning, it's called. We have coding. We teach teenagers how to become computer programmers in Python language. And then we have, at later stage, ICT, we have computer science. So again, we do have those tech courses, but those are more academic then when you get to that level of learning. And we're adding extra courses all the time. We do have club activities as well. We try to encourage the whole child experience and not just on screen and academic. So we do things like matric dances. A lot of our affiliates offer extra field trips and extra events and community events, dances and field trips, and we offer online exercise classes, and we offer creative writing and drawing competitions, and so we do try and encourage the artistic skills as well. Okay, so yeah, look out for all the other offerings that we have to try and create a more all-rounded child. So we're not focusing just on academics. Okay, so yes, we do have a lot. Thank you for asking the question, Angela.
I'm just trying to see if there's anything that we haven't touched on. I think okay. I think we've been on for quite a bit of time. I think I just want to for those of you who are who've got young children, I represent Homeschooling and Rest, where I give a lot of resources and information about the foundation phase. So we didn't get too much of that, but I thought it was also good when you start homeschooling that you just have an idea of what it's going to look like further down the line, and that you can actually just breathe, and there's no rush, when you're starting off. I think I can maybe just close that, my outlook on learning, and also it's actually being confirmed in a way with the Bella Bills being amended, so that they say they want assessment at the end of each phase. That means the end of grade 3, 6, 9, and then 9, basically, because then you're not compelled to be in school anyway after that. So for those of you who are starting fresh with homeschooling, I always say don't be so focused on the grade and what is required per grade, but rather think about developmental phases, because a child within a phase, like your 6, 7, 8-year-olds, they're all going to be working differently. Then it's the body, and now suddenly they're great at catching a ball and hitting and everything like that. And is it so important to have the phonics? It all comes together in a phase. And it's the same as when you hit the intermediate phase, when a child is now developing and they can start doing a little bit more abstract thinking. You don't have to get worried that by grade 4 or grade 5 my child can't do fractions yet. Just hang on a bit and wait. You'll see that at the end of a phase they will be there. So it is. And then the later part of the senior, grade 9. So I think it takes the pressure off parents and the children. Just take your time. Think you've got 3 years to be able to do your foundations, and then another 3 years to be able to get that writing up to scratch and your abstract thinking. And so I don't know about what you think, Hugo, but that's for me.
I totally agree.
Just an approach to education, really.
Yep, absolutely. Look, any of us who are parents will know this. We'll see it in our own children, right? I mean, I've got a daughter, 15, and a son, 11, and I can tell you they're like chalk and cheese. They each have their own strengths and weaknesses, and I can tell you they're all developed differently. My son was a late bloomer when it came to reading. It's still not his favorite. My daughter is a voracious reader, but her personality type is that she can devour a book and be, in its depths for hours at end. And she's more artistic, so she's more into her piano and her choir and her play and her acting. And then my boy would be more into nature and out with the beasts and the cockles and and they just and they developed in their own way at different stages. They didn't follow a single pathway that every other child followed. And if you push them or you try and fit them into a box, I think that's when the harm is done. And I think that's where a lot of harm gets done in the school. Unfortunately, mass schooling has to run by age cohorts, and it has to run by calendars. That's the nature of the beast. It can't run any other way. It's not practical to allow a child to develop at their own pace. But you're quite right, Angela. This is the benefit of homeschooling, is that it is neurodevelopmentally sound, because your child is developing at their own natural pace and acquiring the learning when the time is right for them. And that cannot be replicated in a traditional school environment. Never. Okay. It doesn't mean that some children won't thrive in the traditional school environment. I'm not anti-conventional school. I'm just saying that for a lot of kids, it's not going to fit with their natural learning journey. And that's okay. It's not them that's the problem. It's the school. But we're taught that there must be something wrong. There's something broken with our child if they're not progressing at some predetermined pace across all skills. That is nonsense. You know it from parenting your child, but you buy into that myth when you put them into traditional school, that somehow suddenly it's all uniform, it's all linear. I mean, which child's growth is linear? Never.
Yeah.
I mean, it's yes. So that progression, that stepwise progression that is built into the traditional school system, it's a myth. No child follows a stepwise growth, but that's what it presumes, which means you have to somehow be squished into that system. That's the inherent weakness of a traditional school system.
Yeah.
Do not buy into that when you homeschool. There is no obligation to school that way.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why I encourage parents to be observant. So, I always feel like, homeschooling is actually 90% observation and 10% slip in and do the work. Because you can, if you observe and see how they put together and how your child relates to the information, it doesn't have to be a long schlep. You can go quick. They get the information, and especially when it's interest-led. But that, I think, is a topic for a different discussion.
Yeah,
Thank you.
There's only one more question. If I may,
Yes,
Angela, sorry, I just see Michelle LaRue has posted another question. Do you get
yes.
CambriLearn books? Yes, you do. CambriLearn does prescribe books for many courses, not all of them. Some of them are bookless, like grade R or the social emotional learning. It's purely experiential, or the EMS course, the entrepreneurship and business course. So some of the courses require no books, but most of them you have to get books, whether for the CAPS or the Cambridge. So it is a mixed medium. Huh? You won't be always online. You'll be streaming videos live or watching recordings and playing them back. But a lot of the time you're working on paper, you're producing everything by hand. Even if you have a scribe for it or you have a typing concession, you're still not doing it on screen. And you are going to use physical books wherever possible. There is an option of electronic books, but in most cases we encourage the tangible, the handheld, and we encourage that you actually blend with off-screen learning materials, stuff that's, held with your hand. So yes, it's not all online at all. So do not confuse CambriLearn with a digital-only school. It is anything but. So it is a platform that guides you to teach in the real world using real materials and with the human touch. It is not all done on screen. It is not delivered round the clock digitally. Not everything is done on screen. Not everything is done digitally. I hope you've understood that, Michelle. Otherwise, you're welcome to consult me and I'll give you a little trial and you can see how it's a blend of resources. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Angela. Sorry, we've gone way over, but you did
Yes.
only join us about an hour ago. So technically, we've only been on for an hour.
Yes, and I really apologize to everybody for the late
No, look,
start.
you had a captive audience, Angela. Look, they most of all have stayed on all the whole time. So there we go.
Yeah.
Good sign.
Well, thank you, Hugo, for your time and for your input. And I really appreciate it. And thank you for starting us off. And thank you to everyone who stayed on and listened. And sorry for the extra time. I will send everyone an email with the different links if you want to get a hold of Hugo, and also that free homeschooling guide for those who are starting out.
And the recording. I will share the recording with you, Angela, and you can pass it on for those who wish to rewatch. And for those who missed tonight, who may not have got the link in time or been unavailable, yeah, you can just share it with all registrants. Okay. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful evening, everybody. Okay.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.